So tomorrow we have the sequel of this evening's meditation, the anointing at Bethany. Where Jesus goes to visit Mary and Martha and Lazarus again after the incident with the resurrection of Lazarus, the raising of Lazarus from the dead. And a quote from St. Augustine: "Rather, if you wish to receive mercy, be merciful before he comes. Forgive whatever has been done against you. Give of your abundance. Of whose possessions do you give, if not from his? If you were to give of your own, it would be largesse. But since you give of his, it is restitution. What we give to God is not our own, it is restitution, giving back to him from what he has given us." When I was in my first year of novitiate, during a month of work, I got a special job, which was to remodel the novitiate chapel. So it used to be just a flat ceiling instead of the raised ceiling above. There used to be nasty plastic tiles on the floor, and there was no wooden panels against the wall there. The lights, there were these little pot lights in the ceiling instead of the nice ones on the wall there, these little shell things on the wall. So we did all that. Me and Brother John Studer, now Father John Studer, who's from Atlanta, I think, works down in Mexico now, still a legionary priest, and a man named Richard Hassett, who is very close to the legionaries. His son had been at the apostolic school, I believe, and he helps out at the girls' camp in Calgary every year. He's kind of the handyman. So I've been there to see him the past 2 summers. When we met last summer, it had been probably 19 years since we had seen each other and spent a month working on that chapel together. So I recognized him. I don't think he recognized me. But then I told him how we had met before, and he remembered. So it was really a special reunion. But anyway, the point of the story is that we didn't finish the novitiate chapel on time. So for the next month or so, besides living normal novitiate life, we were squeezing into our evenings and nights finishing the novitiate chapel and putting especially the tiles on the floor, the marble tiles. It was one of the last things that we did, which we did a pretty terrible job of, But we had many sleepless nights working throughout the night to finish the novitiate chapel, and it was such a memorable experience. Really, really, it was a joy because those of us who were working on it felt very special, and we would often have these little midnight snacks, like literally, like at 2 a.m. have a snack. Sometimes with our instructor, with Father Julio, he would come and join us for the snack. I remember one time praying our compline here, like after having been working for a couple hours and before going back to work for a couple more hours, we came to pray our night prayers, and it was a Saturday night, so we did that one that was like, what's the one on Saturday night? In the silent hours of night, bless the Lord. Oh, come you serve the Lord. Lift up your hands to the holy place and bless the Lord through the night. But anyway, one night in the middle of one of these midnight snacks with Father Julio, he got really inspired and started sharing with us a whole spiritual reflection. And it was about Psalm 116. It says, "How shall I make a return to the Lord for all the good he has done to me?" And it was so memorable because of the circumstance where it happened, but also just the fervor with which he shared about this sense of gratitude. I want to give my life to God because he's given me so much, that my heart echoes that prayer. How can I return enough to him for all that he's given me? That was kind of one of the elements of his personal spirituality that he shared with a small group of us that night. And I've really adapted that for myself. I thought to myself, that's got to be one of my mottos of life, is how am I going to give a return to the Lord for everything he's done for me? What can I offer him? It's a very beautiful spirituality. So that's our meditation for tomorrow on Mary of Bethany, who has this heart full of gratitude. If you still have fresh in your mind that beautiful scene of the resurrection of their brother and their hearts towards Christ, absolutely full of gratitude. So in this meditation, rather than contemplating Jesus so much and his heart and his actions, we're going to contemplate the heart of Mary of Bethany. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the hometown of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So they hosted a dinner for Jesus there. Martha served, and Lazarus was among those reclining at table with him. What a scene. What a scene. A dead man. The only one anyone's ever met who knew the inside of the grave and came back to tell the story. So then Mary took about a pint of expensive perfume made of pure nard. She anointed Jesus' feet and wiped them with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. You can read the rest up to verse 8. And remember, our goal here is to know and love and follow Christ. Know him more, love him more, follow him more. But imitating Mary, who loved him probably a lot more than I do up until now, and follows him probably a lot more closely than I have ever up until now, and to try and be like her. So I love to do this contemplation, imagining Mary before Jesus gets there. Their normal everyday life is totally different now that Lazarus is there. Every day, every time they see him is a reminder of Jesus and everything Jesus has done. Now, here's a side note, but wouldn't it be great if we could live that way with other people in our lives, if they reminded us of Jesus every time we see them? But that was for sure the reality. And one day, they get the news that Jesus is coming, and they're going to be able to host a dinner for him because he's coming to Bethany. And whose house would he stay at if not theirs? Oh, the excitement. They've got so much to get ready, so many things to prepare. Martha is busy, bustling, doing lots of work. Lazarus can't get anything done because people are always interrogating him and talking to him, coming to see him, knocking on the door. Can I come and talk to Lazarus? It's like, And of course, they're expecting many guests because now they've got Lazarus and Jesus, coming to their house at once. And they've got so many things to get ready. And then Mary sneaks away to her room. And she's thinking, I have to give something really special to Jesus. What could I possibly give him to pay him back, to say thank you? What could I possibly give him? How could I make a return to the Lord for what he has done for me? She's having flashbacks, PTSD of the funeral and the grave, like remembering what it was like, and just remembering the glorious moment of him coming back from the dead, the miracle. She remembers it. Jesus' face, she remembers the moment that she turned and looked at Jesus. It's in her mind's eye. What can I give him? She goes through everything in the house, one thing after another. Nothing is valuable enough. And she finds this jar of perfume. Maybe it was like something handed down from somebody, in the family. How did this family come across this really expensive perfume? We don't know. But she's been saving it, and it's the best thing they have to offer. It's the most valuable thing that she has to offer. Maybe it occurs to her what Judas said later on, that this could be used for something else. You could sell it and make a big donation, right? I could probably sell this for a lot of money and solve all of Jesus' problems and his disciples' problems for a long time. Maybe I should do that. But what is in her heart? No, I want it to be clear that this is just for him. This is just to delight him. It's not for something functional or for something useful. What I give to Jesus is not because he needs it. He might need money someday to provide for the needs of the community. And I could fulfill that function, but that's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this to please him, just as a gift. It's like when someone gives you a donation and they say, I don't want this to go to the community. I want this to be for you. I want you to get something nice for yourself. An ice cream or a nice coffee at Starbucks or something like that. People often have that intention because they want to show love to the person. They don't want it to be used for something functional. That's why it's an insult to buy someone like socks for Christmas or for their birthday, because it's functional, unless you buy them some really special ones that mean something to them, So she wants this to be just for Jesus. Just for Jesus. I love this story. The gospel confirms the supreme value of the person of Christ. The story, this little incident here, and especially Jesus' response afterwards, shows his identity as being of supreme value, more than what the community needs for something practical. It's Jesus. He's the valuable one. He's the precious one. So then you can contemplate how Jesus arrives and the commotion and the excitement. The crowds are at a fever pitch. The selected guests are so many. There are so many people there. And the level of faith in him is higher than ever. People are like acting funny around Jesus now. It's like, whoa, this is really it, Maybe more people are starting to figure out who he is. The messianic secret, something that you'll study in theology. The Gospels make it very clear that for a long time Jesus tried to keep secret the fact that he was the Messiah, but it leaked out. And so the people are starting to get it. And maybe it's in their conversations. Maybe they're talking about it. Maybe you like to imagine those conversations. What are people saying about Jesus at this point in his life? We're getting very close. This is getting very close to his coming to Jerusalem. And every eye is on him and every ear is open to his words because they're so, caught up in the Jesus hype. And he's trying to be himself and getting them to act normal and stuff. And they can't. I can't wait till this comes out in The Chosen. It's going to be good. But I like this idea that people can't act normal around Jesus anymore. It's like when someone's really famous and you just can't be normal around them. It gets that way a little bit as a priest. You celebrate Mass at a parish or something, people, sometimes after Mass, they treat you like a celebrity or something, But that's the way it is with Jesus. Let's imagine that. And then, as the people are all there being awkward, Mary slips away from being at his feet, where she obviously was just sitting there listening, right? Not serving with her sister Martha. And imagine what's going through Mary's head. She's so excited to give him this gift. Her heart is pounding. She's a little nervous. And she's like, I'm about to make a scene. Because she knows it's going to smell really strong, and she knows everyone's going to notice. But she wants to show love to Jesus. It's the only thing on her mind is, I want to show love to Jesus. And She comes back with the jar, and she opens it up, and she pours it on his feet. And her head is so close that she can wipe his feet off with her hair. And you can imagine the reactions and the astonishment of the people. And I can imagine there would be the different types of people there. For those who get it, for those who are at the same level as Mary, this is delightful. This is a wonderful thing. They're like, oh, that's so perfect. I wish I had thought of that. I wish I had been able to give something like that to Jesus. What a perfect gift. And for those who are like a little bit selfish or a little bit like haven't really fallen in love with Jesus yet or something, they're like Judas, what the heck? What's going on? That's weird, It's like when you do some beautiful act of devotion to Christ, and people who understand your spirituality think it's beautiful, and people who don't understand it are judging you, It happens today with our expressions of faith and love for God. And I think most of the other disciples see this also as a worthy act of love. But then there's Judas, and maybe most of them also respect Judas and his complaint. Imagine that like there's music, it's kind of like a party, and then Judas gets up and starts yelling, and the music stops, and it's really awkward, and everyone's like, oh man, now Judas is making a scene, right? Or maybe it all stopped when Mary did her thing, because it made such a scene, and everyone was so shocked that there was a hush, and they're all just sitting there watching. But for now, at least by now, once Judas starts complaining, then everyone definitely stops, because then Jesus has to address it, and Jesus has to kind of judge between these two people, make him the judge. Am I going to take Mary's side, or am I going to take Judas' side? And for a moment, the disciples and the other people are in suspense. What's Jesus going to say? What's Jesus going to say? Is he going to say, no, it's okay, I know it was really expensive, but I like it. It smells good. or is he going to say, you know what, Mary, Judas is right. That was kind of wasteful. We are poor after all. And for a moment, it seems kind of reasonable, right? But Jesus takes it to another level. Jesus doesn't say what anybody's thinking he's going to say. Doesn't say what anyone thinks he's going to say. Leave her alone. She has kept this perfume in preparation for the day of my burial. Lazarus is sitting there. Mary and Martha just went through the whole trauma of burying their brother and then having him rise from the dead. And Jesus is supposedly the one who is victorious over death. Get it? My burial. Now Jesus is the one making a scene. If the music didn't stop yet, it did now. So that's powerful. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. I don't think there are any more sad words that could be said at a party. For all these people who love him immensely, and the only thing they want in their whole life is to have Jesus there as much as possible. You will not always have me. And maybe Peter's thinking, you gotta be kidding me. He's doing it again. Here he goes with this whole death thing. Jesus, because Peter was the only one who stood up to him about that, right? And he's just thinking that to himself, and you bring it up now? But then there's also the possibility that maybe the disciples are starting to catch on to something, to the mystery of Jesus' mission. Maybe it's like it's ringing a bell. They're like, oh shoot, he told us something about that the other day. What was it? Something about dying and then don't remember. It is a mystery how they failed to see it, how they failed to understand. But what a beautiful thought that Jesus Jesus brought this little gesture to a much deeper level. So maybe we can just imagine what Mary's thoughts were and what her prayer was in that moment. Jesus, I don't ever want to be without you. The one time I was without you, it was not good. The one time that you didn't show up, it was not good. But then again, it turned out good in the end. If there was something of more value that I could offer you, I would. I would offer my life, of course. My life is already yours. My time, of course. Whatever you want, whatever you ask. All that I own, everything, yes, I would offer it to you. To come with you wherever you lead, yes. She has this sense that nothing I could ever give him would ever be enough. Nothing I could ever give him would ever be enough.